Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of Movie Monday, my weekly Monday show where I sit down and talk movies. Now, I didn't watch any new movies this last weekend. I contemplated for a little bit going and seeing the Emoji Movie and suffering through that to come and talk about it to you, but I decided to not do that instead. So what I'm talking about today, I'm going to steal an idea from my friend Christian, aka Pixel Brave, over on Twitter and YouTube. And he does a weekly show called Nobody Asked You, where he takes like a topic that somebody else discussed on a podcast, and he kind of provides his own thoughts on said topic. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to steal the topic that my friends over at Kinda Funny Vids and Kinda Funny Games and just Kinda Funny did on the Game Over Greggy show a couple weeks ago, which was ranking the Marvel movies, the 16 Marvel movies that have been released so far in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, here we go. Number 16, The Incredible Hulk, the one movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I've just never gotten around to seeing. I have it somewhere. It's up there somewhere. I picked it up because I was like, I need to see that movie, and then I just never got around to it. It seems to be kind of the forgotten child of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and until recently, when they brought in General Thunderbolt Ross or whatever for Avengers Age of Ultron, Civil War, Captain America Civil War, they'd pretty much left that movie behind. The Edward Norton Hulk was still the same Hulk that we now have in Mark Ruffalo, but that was pretty much it in terms of what that movie kind of brought forward. Number 15, Thor: The Dark World. Now, this one mostly just kind of is at the bottom of the list because it's just kind of a blasé story. The villain is so nondescript that you're like, why did Christopher Eccleston, who has such high standards, he won't play more Doctor Who than one season, why did he accept this role as weird random elf guy, presumably just for the paycheck, and so he could go do other things that he wants to do. I don't know. But he was pretty bland in it. And the film as a whole was just kind of meh. It suffers from being one of the post-Avengers movies where no other heroes kind of show up. And at least this one makes sense for as to why no other heroes show up, because most of the stuff that happens in it happens off of Earth. Whereas something like Iron Man 3, you're just kind of sitting there like, well, why aren't the rest of the Avengers helping Iron Man out? So I don't have that gripe with Thor: The Dark World, but it was just kind of meh all around. Number 14, Iron Man 2. I am firmly in the camp that Iron Man 2 is the worst of the trilogy. Not that it's a bad movie. I love Sam Rockwell, so he brings great joy to it, but Mickey Rourke is not good, and Whiplash is just kind of a forgettable villain, forgettable character, outside of him wanting his bird and doing the weird Russian accent. So yeah, Iron Man 2, they've gone on record a lot of times saying it was rushed out to try and capitalize and get the movie in theaters quicker, and it needed more time to breathe. Number 13, Thor. And we're at the point on this list where, I think all of the movies from here on out are good. They're just varying degrees of good. I would say Iron Man, Thor: The Dark World, and Incredible Hulk are the only ones that are borderline bad in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And, again, Incredible Hulk I haven't actually seen, but based on everybody else's accounts, there's a reason I haven't seen it. So, meh. So I don't think Thor is a bad movie. I really enjoy Thor. Chris Hemsworth did a great job kind of hitting that fish out of water character. Kenneth Branagh brought his Shakespearean heft to the heightened language of the characters and gave us Loki, and Hemsworth kind of playing the Shakespearean brotherly rivalry. It's kind of laughable, the whole New Mexico town that the Destroyer comes down to and fights, but it's still a good, fun movie, but it doesn't reach the highs of many of the other stories on this list. Number 12, Captain America, the First Avenger. One of the things I loved about this movie, apart from kind of introducing me to Captain America and the lovely period piece of it, he had a team with his Howling Commandos, which was kind of great to see. Hugo Weaving as Red Skull is a lot of fun. He just kind of chews the scenery, as Hugo Weaving is often wont to do. But I think what really made it stand out for me was because we see kind of like a couple years of Steve Rogers' life as kind of the military mascot Captain America thing, and you see him with Peggy Carter, kind of their relationship grows and blossoms in that time. So even though we're only getting a couple hours in movie time with them, they've had years to kind of foster their will they won't they romance, and it's a very just charming and believable romance, and it was the first time that I thought the Marvel Cinematic Universe really did that well. Number 11, The Avengers, Age of Ultron. This gets a lot of crap, and certainly I don't think it reaches the same highs of the original Avengers, hence its placement on this list. But one of the things that Avengers does really well, Age of Ultron does really well, is it shows the Avengers trying to help people. In so many movies, we just see kind of like destruction in the third act, and, you know, fighting the bad guy and saving the world. Here we actually see them saving the world. We see them saving people and trying to kind of evacuate Sokovia while they're also trying to fight off the army of Ultron robots. James Spader is delightful as Ultron, completely took it a more snarky way than I think, you know, a lot of us were expecting from, you know, killer robot AI thing. And it was definitely a movie that felt like, well, we kind of screwed over Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye in the first movie, so let's give him, you know, heart and a story and some of the best lines in the movie when he's talking about how ridiculous it is that he's a guy with a bow and arrow, but he's out there trying to do something because it's what he can do. Great movie, just definitely not kind of... It was hard to capture lightning in a bottle twice. And this was also the first time we really saw the overarching Marvel machine say, well, here are the things you've got to throw in this movie to set up future movies, like the stupid Thor in a cave water vision thing, which still hasn't paid off going into Thor Ragnarok, and based on like the drastically different tone of Thor Ragnarok, I don't know if it's going to pay off. I think we saw Marvel tried to do that, and the reaction was bad, so they've kind of pulled back on those. Like, here's a scene dedicated specifically to setting up another movie, unless, of course, it's like the end credits thing. Number 10, Iron Man 3. Again, not a bad movie. Better than Iron Man 2, in my opinion. I thought Shane Black coming in and doing his Shane Black thing was a great change of pace. I loved what they did with the Mandarin. I know a lot of people hate that, and I admittedly am not like a fan of the comics, so I'm not beholden to the Mandarin as a comic character, but based on like so much of what I've seen about that character, I was like, oh, that's going to be really culturally bad to try and like bring him into the more realistic universe that they're creating. So I loved what they did with this approach of the Mandarin, and that it was kind of a bit of a bait and switch kind of thing. It was I know a lot of people hated it, but I really enjoyed it, and not only because the name Trevor plays a role in the movie. I also loved that it addressed the PTSD nature that Tony kind of felt coming out of the Avengers, the first Avengers movie. You know, his world has definitively changed. Yes, he's been playing kind of billionaire robot guy, but here he had to face a life-threatening calamity, and it shook him, and we get to see kind of the toll that took on him. Number 9, Ant-Man. Now, it's entirely possible that this would have been somewhere higher up on the list had Edgar Wright actually been able to stick it out with this movie, but there's a lot of fun in there. You care about Ant-Man, which is ridiculous in and of itself. Paul Rudd is he just oozes charm and has for 20 years, and it's great to see him, and he and Michael Douglas play well together. Getting to see the Marvel take on like a heist movie was a lot of fun here, and there was just a lot of great comedy in this movie. Number 8, Doctor Strange, which I love mostly for its visuals. Outside of that, it's a kind of a generic by-the-numbers origin story kind of thing, which was weird because I remembered reports saying that like Doctor Strange wasn't going to be your typical origin story, and they were doing away with that moving forward. You were going to have these characters already established, but maybe they didn't decide to do that after all, or maybe Doctor Strange was going to be the last origin story. That might be what it was. I don't know. Benedict Cumberbatch, great. Accent's a little weird, but whatever. But the visuals of this movie and its very kind of Inception-like aesthetic was probably what most stands out to me, as well as the idea that it was a much more cerebral movie, and it's not like end of the movie you're fighting some big thing in the sky. It looks like it might be going that way, but then they have a very creative twist on it. So it was a lot of fun, and it did a good job of introducing magic into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Number 7, the movie that started it all, Iron Man. I don't subscribe to the notion that just because it was first makes it best. See my rankings of the Fast and the Furious movies. But Iron Man was a good movie, and it set a good tone. Robert Downey Jr. obviously is Iron Man, and he's been a charming, wonderful portrayal of that character since it started. The idea that it was so bold to kind of upend what we had come to expect from comic book movies, where the main character had to keep his secret identity. When this one comes and he just says, "Yeah, I'm Iron Man," and the movie cuts to black, it's just a great. It set a great tone for this world. Admittedly, we maybe have too many characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that don't have secret identities, so they had to kind of tweak the Civil War storyline, so it wasn't about getting to know who these people were, because we kind of already know who everybody is. But it was still Iron Man did a great job. It did it first, and it set us down this path. Number 6, Guardians of the Frickin' Galaxy. Came out of nowhere. Nobody expected this to be as good as it was, but James Gunn's music and just kind of dedication to making these weird characters feel like a family, basically Space Avengers. He did a great job kind of bringing them all together, introducing them all, giving them conflict, and by the end of the movie resolving it. The fact that it didn't have to tie into everything else that was going on outside of a couple Infinity Stone references and Thanos and whatnot made it just a wonderful, wonderful standalone movie in this cinematic universe that we hadn't seen in a long time. There hadn't been a standalone story. Everything had been so kind of interwoven that to just get to go to space and have this wonderful little Star Wars-y type movie led by amazing performances from Chris Pratt and a standout turn from Batista. It was just a ton of fun, and yeah, the music from the get-go of that from when the opening title just pops on the screen in the middle of the song, you're like, this is what we're in for. This is going to be a good time. Number 5, the most recent entry to the list, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Certainly could move up or down the list, in time, but right now this is kind of where it's sitting for me. I think it is my favorite interpretation of Spider-Man cinematically, the best mix of character and story, and the fact that it's tied into everything else just makes it that much more impressive that they didn't have to do the Uncle Ben stuff, and they were able to kind of just say, Spider-Man, so here's Spider-Man. Let's see him do this. Michael Keaton is fantastic in this movie. Tom Holland is great as Spider-Man. And yeah, just a lot of fun. Great kind of introduction to him in his own standalone tale. I'm excited to see where they go with it. I'm so glad that Marvel and Sony were able to play nice on this. Number 4, probably lower on the list than a lot of people, The Avengers. Nobody thought it could be done. You could build this, movie that was the culmination of 4 other movies from 3 different franchises of Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America, and you're bringing them all together. Oh, and the Incredible Hulk. God, So you had all these characters coming together in their kind of roundup story, and Joss Whedon just knocked it out of the park, gave everybody their moment to shine, except again maybe Jeremy Renner kind of got a little bit lost in the shuffle, but it was just amazing to see it all together, and it gave us some of the most iconic moments in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with that hero shot of the camera kind of circling all around them, to Puny God, to That's My Secret, I'm Always Angry. Just so they nailed the Hulk, which again, haven't seen the Incredible Hulk, but based on what I understand, they didn't really nail it. So the fact that we got to see everything come together in this movie, it was incredible, and it was the culmination of a multi-year experiment that paid off astonishingly well for Marvel. Number 3, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. One of the first post Avengers movies that really felt like it knocked it out of the park because it completely turned the world up on its end. Yeah, there weren't as many hints to the idea that that S.H.I.E.L.D. was secretly had been infiltrated by Hydra, but it still pays off incredibly well and completely changed the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving forward, especially the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, which I was watching at the time and was a big fan of, and I kind of felt like they knew that was coming, because this was like the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they couldn't do anything about it, so they had to give you they had to tread water for a little while first, and then this big change happened, and then that show really took off. It was a great debut from the Russo brothers, to see them come in and just nail Captain America and take a character that most people found the blandest of the superheroes, and they made him interesting. They gave him Black Widow and Falcon to play off of, and it was a wonderful espionage thriller. Robert Redford is in there and does amazing work. Sebastian Stan does great work as the Winter Soldier. Just all around, I didn't think it would be possible to go above and beyond the Avengers, and this did. It was the first movie that came after the Avengers that was like, oh, the Avengers isn't the end-all, be-all. That set the tone, and here's where we've gone from here. So, great stuff there. Number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now this was, I said it in my review, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, maybe back the first episode of Movie Monday, I don't remember. Way back earlier on in the series, back that way, because back is that way if you're, I don't know, I'm just making that up. But I said in that video that I liked Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 better than I did 1. 1 certainly had like the magic and the getting to know all these characters and the funny kind of journey therein. But I thought 2 handled the music better. Even if I didn't know, the songs weren't always as recognizable as they were on the soundtrack for 1. They tied in thematically better to the action at play here, and it was just phenomenal work. And we didn't have to establish who these characters were. We know who these characters are now, so we got to see them moving forward, introduce new characters in the mix, highlight characters that were kind of backgrounds in the last movie, and just give a wonderful, heartwarming story about Peter trying to figure out his place in the world and who his dad was, and lovely, lovely stuff. And number 1, Captain America: Civil War, which was effectively Avengers 2.5 as we lead up into the Infinity War movies moving forward. We got to see pretty much all of the heroes heretofore introduced into the universe. Everybody was there pretty much except Thor and Hulk. but everybody else. You get to see the feud between Tony and Steve, which had been building a little bit since that first Avengers movie. You got to see that come to a head, and it was, the airport scene is going to stand out as one of the best comic book movie scenes of all time. The fights there are phenomenal, but I love how personal the story is in the third act. This movie gets a lot of crap for the villain being kind of meh. I really loved it because the villain is one of the first villains we've seen that actually won. Yeah, he doesn't get everything he wanted, but he still tears the team apart. They're not together anymore at the end of the movie, so he won. As much as, it sucks to admit, Zemo did what he set out to do. So yeah, Captain America Civil War is my favorite movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Nails all the characters. Every character gets a little moment to shine. It gave us the introduction of Spider-Man into the universe, who nailed it with his little bit of the movie. All around great stuff, and I'm excited to see where we pick up with all these characters moving forward. So that's my ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far, up through when Spider-Man Homecoming has come out. I'm sure Thor Ragnarok is the next one out, and that's looking pretty cool. Black Panther is after that. That's looking really cool. Infinity War is looking awesome. Captain Marvel is exciting because Brie Larson's amazing and beautiful and wonderful, and she seems to be super excited about the project. I love seeing her post things on Twitter about her excitement for it. So we'll see where this listing and ranking, where these rankings go moving forward, but as of right now, that's where they sit. Let me know your rankings of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.